All right, let's talk about a toy that, if you were a kid in the 80s or 90s, you absolutely remember. A tiny little marvel that took on the giants of the industry and, for a while, totally won. This is the story of the rise and the fall of micro machines.
I mean, you have to remember, for a hot minute there, these things were the undisputed kings. They were everywhere. And then, it felt like almost overnight, poof, they were gone. So what on earth happened? How does one of the biggest toy crazes just disappear?
As we get into it, if you love these kinds of nostalgic deep dives, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us make more of these. Okay, let's jump in. So, our story kicks off back in the mid-1980s. You've got this small family-run company with a massive idea that was actually miniature. You have really got to picture the scene here. The toy car world was a battlefield, completely dominated by two titans, Hot Wheels and Matchbox. Trying to compete with them head-on, it was basically impossible. So this company, Galoob, did something kind of brilliant. They just went the other way. Instead of trying to be bigger or better, they decided to go smaller. A lot smaller. And man, did this strategy work. These things were unbelievably tiny, but the level of detail was just insane. We're talking precision paint jobs, tiny little features. It was incredible. Plus, they sold them in these affordable multi-packs, which made collecting them super addictive. I mean, you could literally hold your entire car collection in the palm of your hand. It was this perfect mix of detail, value, and, you could take them anywhere. And then, the moment happened. The thing that took them from a popular toy to a full-blown cultural icon. When Kevin McAllister laid out that carpet of micro machines as a booby trap in Home Alone, oh yeah, suddenly every single person on the planet knew exactly what they were. They weren't just a toy anymore, they were a piece of childhood. But a great product can only get you so far. You need killer marketing. And for micro machines, that marketing came in the form of one man's absolutely unforgettable voice. Everybody meet John Mashita Jr. Galoob went out and hired the guy who was literally in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the fastest talker on Earth. And let me tell you, it was marketing genius. His commercials were these frantic, super high-energy bursts that perfectly captured the fun of just dumping a ton of these tiny cars on the floor. And every single one of those commercials slammed to a halt with this legendary tagline. This wasn't just a slogan, right? This was a playground anthem. It was seared into the brain of every kid watching Saturday morning cartoons. So, what did all this lead to? The results were just staggering. By 1989, just a couple years in, these tiny little cars were pulling in around $135 million a year. For a small family company like Galoob, that's not just a success, that's a world-changing hit. And with that kind of cash flowing in, the Micro Machines universe just exploded. We got those amazing transforming play sets, like the toolbox that turned into a garage. We got monster trucks, boats, jets, even this super creative line called Insiders that had even tinier cars inside them. But where things really took off was licensing. They had Star Trek, James Bond, but the real game changer was the Star Wars line. I mean, you could have massive space battles right there on your bedroom carpet. It was awesome. It was just an incredible time for the brand. And hey, if you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, it would be awesome if you could take a quick second to hit that like button. It really lets us know you're digging the story. At this point, micro machines seemed absolutely untouchable. But as we got into the mid-90s, things started to change. And the fault wasn't because of one single thing. It was more like a perfect storm with a bunch of different problems all hitting at the same time. So you can really boil down their disappearance to these three major things. First, the brand itself just got kind of muddy. Second, the entire world of what it meant to be a toy was changing. And third, a corporate buyout came along and pretty much sealed the deal. Yeah, kind of ironically, their own massive success was the first problem. The brand expanded into so many different things, military stuff, sci-fi, all these movie tie-ins, that it started to lose its focus. You see, kids stopped saying, I want Micro Machines, and they started saying, I want the Star Wars toys that just happened to be made by Micro Machines. The core brand was getting weaker. And while that was happening, the whole way kids played was, it was changing fast. The simple fun of a little plastic car was now competing with stuff like the Game Boy and Tamagotchis. For the very first time, kids' attention was being pulled towards screens, and, good old physical toys were starting to feel the heat. And this was the nail in the coffin. In 1998, the toy giant Hasbro bought Galoob for $220 million. But here's the thing, they didn't really buy Galoob for Micro Machines. Nope, they wanted the Golden Goose, that unbelievably valuable Star Wars license that Galoob had. And once Hasbro had their hands on that, Micro Machines just wasn't a priority anymore. The releases slowed down to a trickle, and then they were basically gone.
It's such a classic story of how a big corporate buyout can change everything for a beloved brand. If you find a business side of the toy world as interesting as I do, let me know down in the comments. And of course, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one.
But you know what? The story doesn't totally end there. The brand might have disappeared from the shelves, but it definitely left a legacy. So what happened next? Well, over the years, there have been a few attempts to bring them back. There was a quick reboot in the early 2000s that didn't really stick, another small one tied to the new Star Wars movies in 2015, but the biggest attempt came in 2020 when a company called Jazzwares launched a pretty ambitious revival, bringing back some of those classic playsets for a new generation. So while you might not see them dominating the toy aisles anymore, those original Micro Machines have found a totally new life. Today, they're these cherished collector's items. They're like these perfect, tiny little time capsules that take you right back to a time when an entire universe of fun could fit right in your pocket. And that really makes you wonder, right? What is it that makes a toy like this so unforgettable? Is it the size? The detail? Maybe it's just the memories we attach to them. What do you think? I would genuinely love to read your thoughts on that down in the comments. Thanks so much for hanging out and going on this journey with me. If you had a good time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories behind the stuff we love. We'll see you on the next one.